Hey, Mr. Hawk. And by the way, for my subscribers, this is a message to one of the other YouTuber TikTokers on here. So you can tune out now. This is kind of a direct, specific message to him, and people share a sentiment. So, Mr. Hawk, you don't know me, but I know you because I watch your YouTube clips. Right? Thanks to the internet. If you're putting a video out there, there's a whole bunch of people watching you may not know exist. So I just saw your video about we are outnumbered and how you feel overwhelmed and just helpless in the face of the sheer magnitude of ass hattery and stupidity that surrounds us, and especially on social media. So I feel you. I feel you. We all feel like this. We all feel like this. But I needed to say a few things to you, okay? Because it's important because you have a voice and a platform and people listen to you. I listen to you. So the first thing is snap out of it, you big baby. Oh my God. So listen, do you know why you're upset? Do you know why you're overwhelmed? Do you know why you're beside yourself? Because the world is not changing fast enough to suit your taste or your expectations. We're all feeling this. We're all feeling this. Like, dear God, it's 2025 and this is the best we've accomplished for evolution. Really? So that's the first thing. And I want you to keep this in mind. It helps to remember that we share the planet with a bunch of poo-flinging monkeys. They're never going to evolve. They're literally here for fertilizer and grunt labor. I'm convinced. I'm just convinced. So, you know, there's that. The difference between now and when we were growing up is that now, instead of the local bar where you had to listen to these twats, right, spout their stupid, uninformed, ignorant opinions based on their little teeny tiny universe, okay, over a beer where you could at least drink long enough to numb the sound of their stupidity in your ear. Now we have social media and everybody's got access to a platform and a stage where they can spout out all the sewage running around in their head indiscriminately. And we don't always necessarily have the benefit of being able to have a drink while we're listening to it. But we can change the channel. Unfortunately, there's so many more of them now, right? There's so many more bars in one place. So we have the same number, maybe less of stupid ignoramuses that we did before. It's just that the internet and social media allows everyone to have a stage to stand on and a microphone to speak, or a megaphone to speak out of, which makes them seem like there's a lot more of them than there are because this, Hawk. Reasonable people think before they speak. Reasonable people don't feel the need to offer their freaking opinion on every stupid thing, especially if they know that they are not nearly as well informed as they should be. Reasonable people with more than 4 brain cells in their head know to stop, think, consider, and be more selective about what they offer their opinions on. And they also, here's the important part, okay? They also know that they have to leave room in their opinions and their ideations about things that they could be wrong, that they could be wrong. The important thing to remember is that nobody likes being wrong. Nobody. Being wrong is a horrible feeling. The other thing, and if you've ever known people who are truly intellectually limited, right? I've known way too many of them because I went to school with these people, right? And I can tell you all about these kinds of poo-flinging monkeys, right? So not only does everybody across the board, regardless of where you're at on the scale for intelligence or education, does not like being wrong. Stupid people, truly, genuinely stupid people, limited intellectual capacity, have an even harder time dealing with being wrong. And when they are wrong, they will literally, I've watched this and you've seen this too, will dig their heels in like a mule and literally fight to the death about how right they are in the face of how wrong they actually are. No matter how wrong they actually are, no matter how much facts pile up to prove and confirm how wrong they really are, they don't care. They will literally fight to death and live in their little bubble of protected, insulated imaginarium to stay right because they don't have a whole lot else to work with. So when you take away being right about something, now you've completely destabilized them because they got nothing left at that point. So your average MAGA supporter probably took for granted their free public education. Education is not free in other countries, but it's here and clearly wasted on a whole bunch of people that should be out farming, and working in factories because they don't want to use their brain for anything more than showing up for work and leaving, which is fine, except that they seem to think that they're so clever. Their opinions, carry so much weight that they can't possibly be wrong. That's where the problem is. In any event, 12 years of free education in this country wasted on a whole bunch of people who never took their education seriously, who don't take education at all seriously. And don't forget, Hawk, the anti intellectualism in this country started well over a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades ago. It's been a growing phenomenon, this poo pooing of intelligence and education. Like, who do you think you are, right? So there's this intellectual elitism that they've been fighting off, like bats backing away from the light, for a very, very long time. And a lot of it is because once you finish school, there's no time to go back. You can't make up for that time, right? So whatever you putzed around with and took for granted and didn't invest yourself in as far as getting smarter and more educated, right? When you had the chance, by the time you're an adult and you realize, oh crap, like I shit civics, what the hell is that? It's too late because now you got bills, you got kids, you got responsibilities, and you don't have enough time. And while this has been happening, we've had an entire corporate monster growing, greed and selfishness, okay, that has been devouring employees, laborers, wage slaves, right? The labor classes, devouring them and demanding more, 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 even at white collar levels. Literally, it's turned into wage slavery. We'll pay you a salary, but we're not going to own you. So even when you leave here, we still have you tethered to the phone and expect you to give up your free personal time off the clock for the benefit of the company, right? We've been watching this happen over the decades. This is not new, right? So, there's that. And of course, along with that, in my generation, I'm sure yours, and maybe some other people, there's this constant push. The only advice we ever gave kids, right, was play the game, learn to play the game. You got to play the game. You got to play the game, which is horseshit because what we're really saying is integrity, character, merit, making an effort, wanting to be an expert at something, want to be the best at something you can possibly be. None of these things matter as long as you know how to play the game, because that's what really matters. It's all a game. And this is what has come home to roost as a result of that mentality that we've been feeding these kids for generations. Okay. Because our generation are the parents of those kids, right? And some of the people above us that were telling us this. This is where I'm learning this, right? Those people who are now the boomers, our generation and the ones in Congress in the little DC bubble, same thing. This is a game. There's no need for integrity. There's no need for merit. There's no need for excellence. There's no need for any of that. Just know how to play the game. This, in combination with an entire society, and I'm sure it's the same in other cultures as well, but certainly here, where it's the buddy network, right? Most of these jobs that people get, they get because somebody knew somebody who told them about a job and got them in, right? Like rich person welfare. For those of you who don't know anybody with money, let me tell you, this is how rich person welfare works. Oh, honey, are you out of a job? Are you about to lose your apartment? Oh, sweetie, we've got you covered. Here, let me get you a job at this business in this position that you're not qualified for. But as long as you've got a degree in anything, we'll put you in and we can make it work. Rich person welfare is giving you a job or a company or a business. Okay. Poor person welfare is giving you just enough subsidy to be able to eat and not starve in the street. So rich people welfare, it's about giving people jobs, whether they deserve them or not, whether they're qualified for them or not, whether there's merit for them to have them or not. And that whole mentality, that buddy network, who's your buddy, who's your pal? Do you know somebody? That's literally how a lot of people have gotten their jobs over the decades. Okay. And this is what DEI was fighting against, was trying to get more qualified people into these positions, knowing that the majority of people in these positions weren't letting anybody else in that didn't look like one of them. Okay. And nobody wants to talk about that because the ones who got their jobs literally because they had a friend of a friend of a friend and not because they're necessarily more qualified for that job than the other guy, they don't want you to talk about it because you might actually discover who they are and why they're there. We know. We all know who they are. We all know who they are. They just think we don't know. So This is the way of the world. But here's the thing, right? Here's the thing I want you to remember. The first thing is, you're a lawyer, you know this. Words matter. Words matter. So when we talk about this stuff, it's important that as a paradigm shift, as an entire group of people in mass consciousness, we have got to get away from words like people and race. Because at the end of the day, it's not about people, white people, black people, whatever people. It's not about race, white race, black race, blah, blah, blah race. Okay. It's about culture and colonizer mentality. That's what we have to face up to. And we have to change the words we're using, because the fact of the matter is, it's not about race. I can't change the race I was born into. And there is nothing I have been given or inherited just because I'm a certain race. It doesn't work like that unless you're a dummy who's lived under a rock, and still like you're a poo flinging monkey and that's the height of your intellectual ability. It's not about your race. We can't change the race we're born into, but the culture is everything. And you can change cultural norms. You can change cultural perspectives. You can change cultural values. You can adopt a different person's culture because it's about culture. What we're dealing, because they talk about the culture wars, but everybody still defaults back to white people, white race, black people, black race. It's not about race. It's not about people. It's about culture. And at the end of the day, it's the colonizer mentality that's got us in this mess in the first place. It's the whole win-lose mentality. A lot of the guys in my generation don't like that these kids get participation trophies. Oh, these kids are so soft, they get participation trophies. Ugh. Because in their mind, the way we grew up and the things that they understand, it's all about competition, winners and losers, absolutes, right? You can only be a winner or a loser. All right, with all the material benefit and trophy that goes with it to establish and prove to the world that you are, in fact, a winner or a loser. All of these things, again, it goes back to games, know how to play the game. All of these things also say that there's no emphasis or value, character, integrity, merit, excellence. Just knowing how to play the game and winning or losing. Trump considers himself a winner because he's amassed all the material things that determine and show to the world that I'm a winner. But he has no character, he has no integrity, he has no values, right? His priorities are all the wrong ones and are destructive. Elon Musk is another one, right? He's never had to work for anything. He's never had to suffer or struggle. Oh, boo-hoo, your mom and dad got divorced. Your dad's a freaking pervert, and your mom's probably more useless than a fifth leg on a cow. I mean, listen, no offense, but she's a beautiful model who's married to a very rich man. I'm sure she did very little in her life that required effort because she didn't need to. So, and God only knows what kind of loop-de-loo she is, because, honey, I've seen Elon Musk's astrology chart, and he's got some issues with his mom. That's what he and Trump have in common, this distaste and distrust for women. Okay? So, in all of these things, they have all of the not participation, they have all of the physical things that show that they're winners in life, but are they really? Somewhere along the way, we've all lost our understanding and our priorities, right? In terms of what matters in life. Character, integrity, excellence, the desire to be the best at whatever it is that you do, and getting respect and appreciation for being the best at what you do, no matter what you do. Okay. None of all these things go on. It's all been about a game, winning and losing, playing the game. Okay. And as long as we keep talking about people and race, we're never going to get past this. It's about culture. Okay. Cultures change. You can change a culture, you can leave a culture, you can adopt a new culture, but it's all about culture and the values and priorities of a culture, because we can change that. We can do what we need to do with that. We can evolve through it. Can't change your race, and you're not inheriting anything because you're a specific race. The other thing, and again, the whole colonizer mentality goes with the game playing winners and losers. And the other thing I just want to point out, right, while I'm telling you to suck it up, buttercup. No, just kidding. Um, the other thing that I want to point out is a lot of what we're seeing has to do with conceit, right? So there are a lot of people who've got nothing going on in life. They're not exceptional at anything. They're not exceptionally attractive. They're not exceptionally smart. They're not exceptionally good at anything. They're not exceptional at anything, and they're not trying to be, right? They're skating by on the fact that they're part of a privileged group of people, that has made life easier for them. Okay. And they don't want that to change. I wouldn't want it to change if it were me. If my life were easy, don't you dare change it. But there's a lot of conceit built into that because there's this belief that because I am white in America, right? That of course, I know best what is I know what's best for everybody, right? I know what's good and I know how the world is supposed to work and my opinion matters and I don't care if I'm literally as informed and expert on a subject matter as the local drunk in the local bar, doesn't matter. I know. So we've had a lot of that for decades now, right? And people hate to admit that they're wrong. And the dumber they are, the harder it is for them to admit they're wrong. The dumber they are, the more likely they are to dig their heels in like a mule and go to their grave fighting the obvious, no matter how obvious it is that they're wrong. So we have a lot of that. So conceit drives this. Remember, Hawk, go back to the pandemic. Remember all those people in the streets fighting to make other people go back and risk their lives so that they could have their creature comforts back. I need my nails done. I need my hair done. All the stupid stuff that were non-essentials in life. They were fighting for people to go back to work so that I can have my nails done and blah 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 blah, right? What kind of conceit, like think French Revolution, Marie Antoinette let them eat cake. What kind of conceit drives anybody to think that this is okay? And when you think about it, now remember, we're talking about culture, not race. So if we look at the majority of people that were out there screaming and raging about not being able to get their little creature comforts during the pandemic because other people refused to go and risk their lives and their health, right? What did they have in common? Well, what they had in common is they all looked alike and they all look like white people, which isn't to say that it's white people that are the problem. It's white culture. And do you know why you didn't see a lot of minorities out there? There's always the exception. There's always some dum dum like Clarence Thomas who's a freaking exception to it because they hate themselves. Anyway, do you know why you didn't see a lot of minorities out there fighting for other people to go to work and risk their lives so they could have their little creature comforts too? Because typically we're the ones who are doing those jobs because we are not part of the buddy network that can get us in the better jobs. Because all of this is about who you know, who you know, who you know, who do you know, who's your buddy, who's your pal. So, that's where we're at. It's gonna take a while. Now, here's what's important, you, sir, and you need to own this, just own this. It is so important that you and other people who look like you keep speaking up because you know what? Those dummies, they're not listening to people like me. They're not literally they've taken one look at me and because I've lived with this, right? And I'm seeing it on social media as well with my YouTube channel. So here's what happens. They take one look at me and like, nah, whatever. And then it's all kinds of finding reasons why I'm not good enough or I'm wrong or whatever, like fault finding from beginning to end the minute they see me, which, it's not unexpected. It's just sad, right? And the other is that they don't care what I have to say. They don't care what I have to say. And if I start pointing out stuff and start spilling facts like a lot of other content creators are doing, like they're going to tune out instantly. I'm just going to disappear in their mind. Just, flip, there goes the channel. But you, because you look like them, right? You speaking up, people who look like you speaking up, even a little bit, has everything to do with other people understanding this is not okay. This is not only not okay, this is wrong. They're wrong, right? And there's a whole universe of people out here who are not on board with them or you if you're joining them. Because remember, most people are cowards and most people will keep quiet and go along to get along. Okay. Especially in a world where all your opportunities and all of your access to good things like better jobs, parties, friends, social support, rich people welfare, all of these things are based on who you know, who's your buddy, who's your pal. They're not going to piss anybody off. So there's a whole lot of people out there like not saying a word. They don't agree with it, but they're also not saying a word. And it's like a weed in the garden, right? If you keep ignoring it and neglecting it, it's just going to keep growing and spreading and growing and spreading and taking root deeper and deeper and deeper. You've got to get out there and you've got to pull it up by the root the minute you see it, right? And you've got to keep going after it when it's small, okay? Because if you're starting to see it everywhere, it's been ignored long enough that it could take root and spread like that. So that's where we're at. We're weeding the garden. We're weeding the garden. And your voice is necessary because they'll listen to. You, they feel safe around. You, they don't feel like they're being attacked. Not the MAGA chuds, but the other ones who are on the fence and keeping quiet because they're afraid to speak up because it's all about losing access to opportunities and benefits and parties and friends, right? And family. A lot of people are cowards. We live on the planet with poo-flinging monkeys and cowards. But you speaking up and spitting truth, right? All of you out there speaking up and spitting truth, even in small amounts. You don't have to wage war, but even small amounts of pointing out the facts, making it clear that's not okay, right? And that you don't think it's okay makes a huge difference. So snap out of it, buddy. People are watching, and we need you out here. And we're going to get through this. We're going to get through this. I promise you, we're going to get through this. But this is what it is. Ask when you look at people, sometimes there are people who are just so damn hard-headed, you're like, "What is it gonna take? What is it gonna take?" Well, we're at the part now where, okay, is this what it's gonna take? Is this what it's gonna take? Because the universe is saying we can do this all night long. What's it gonna take, buddy? Is this what it's gonna take? How bad does the universe have to make it hurt for you to finally get a clue and pull your head out of your butt? And stop buying into this conceit, right? This mean girl conceit. Because they all think they're, the pretty popular girl in these mean girl movies, right? Full of conceit. And when you're full of conceit, typically it's not based on anything. And also, you tend to see the world through a very narrow lens. Okay. So maybe watch a mean girl movie, right? And think about all these people that you're saying are incredibly stupid. And they may be, but they're also incredibly conceited as a culture, and look at it that way, and maybe it'll make more sense. So in that case, when you're dealing with conceited mean girls or boys, right? Then the question is, how do I deal with this? How do I work with this? And how do I keep this from becoming more of a problem for me and the people around me that I love and respect and care about that don't look like the pretty girl or the pretty boy, the mean girl? Okay. So there you go, Mr. Hawk. Snap out of it. See you around.